Podcast.
This show is brought to you in part by Two Fish Baking at Stewart's Point. Hungry? Two Fish has scrumptious sticky buns, warm braided cardamom rolls, filling breakfast burritos, and biscuits, scones, sandwiches on house-made bread, soups from scratch, tasty calzones, and freshly made salads. Warm yourself up with rich, tasty coffee and espresso drinks, or cool yourself down with a cold draft beer. Bakery, market, and eatery. That's Two Fish Baking at Stewart's Point, a destination of deliciousness. Find out more at twofishbaking.com or call 707-785-2011. That's 707-785-2011.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Peggy here at KGUA in Gualala, 88.3 FM on this rainy morning. Boy, do we have a show for you this morning. Our friend Gary Farmer is here. We're going to hear him in just a moment. But first, of course, as you all know, that weather system they call the atmospheric river has hit us again. So Gary, I got to make a couple of local announcements. He understands. Gary Farmer, the great actor. He's also started a radio station many years ago. He's so much fun. You see him on Res Dogs, Resident Alien, and so many things. But first, I have an announcement from Sea Ranch. I understand a power line is down off of Skag Springs Road and Rhododendron. I don't know exactly where that is, but if you're in that area, be very, very careful and cautious. I drove in this morning from Anchor Bay. Roads are pretty wet, very, very wet. Most of us, even the big trucks, are driving around 40 miles an hour. So be really careful. There's big pools forming as, roads that are coming downhill, hitting Highway 1 are gathering pools of water. So please be safe there. I haven't heard from Garcia River yet up in Point Arena, whether they are flooded yet. And that's mainly my theme this morning is just be safe. 40 miles an hour is pretty safe. If you want to send me an email or a message and let me know what's going on with the road conditions, that will help us all. So in the meantime, this atmospheric river, as they call it, is flooding us. In fact, we had about 1.66 inches of rain at our house overnight. And I think and somebody will correct me, of course, I think we're up to about 54 inches this year already, which is pretty amazing. So, and if you're new to the area, if you're not used to California, this is how it used to be. Just be careful out there. And that's all we got for you this morning, I believe. Let me see. And Gary understands all this. I got to do all these things here. Don't forget, Mendonoma Health Alliance, any day, Monday through Friday, make an appointment between 9 and 3, get free screenings for A1C, blood pressure control, HIV, hepatitis C, and COVID antigen. So you can give them a call at 707-412-3176, extension 102, or go online to all one word, mendonomahealth.org. On Tuesdays, you can just drop in, and you know where they are at Sunstrom Mall. Be safe. Get ahead of anything that's trying to catch up with you. All right, I'm going to leave it at that because I want to talk to my friend Gary Farmer. And so Gary, how you doing?
Scanos Waguego Negaso Hyant was hello, Peggy, long time.
Long time. All I can say is Henche, Muskogee for hello. Gary is Cayuga, I believe, correct? And yeah, we have known each other for quite a while. He was already semi-famous, but he's pretty famous. You're just everywhere, Gary, and I just don't know where to start because this is your life, Gary. Right now, I got it right here on these pieces of paper. Cracking.
So I remember is the time I stopped in on you where you are. I suspect, are you in the same spot?
No, we're actually an hour north of there.
Okay.
Hour north, it's even more remote. Gary dropped in when we lived in Sereno Del Mar, and he's so tall, he barely fit through the door. And I think you were working on the diabetes program, Sugar Blues, then?
Oh, wow. Interesting. Yeah, it was a documentary on the impact of the high incidence of diabetes, especially among Tohono O'odham back
Yeah.
then. I must have been coming back from Arizona there.
Wow, we should dig that out, or maybe you should reissue it. I'm sure it's still relevant.
Yeah, in fact, I was just there on behalf of the tribe visiting, actually through the New Year's holiday,
Hmm.
and I actually tracked down the fellow who was one of my main helpers there, who was a member of the community trying to reestablish gardening, basic gardening
Hmm.
among the Tohono O'odham community there, which were prolific, growers of food in a day. Of course, it got taken over by cotton once the cash crop was kind of overtaken by, the
Hmm.
complete logical crop was hemp, of course, but cotton took over the world.
They have a radio station, KOHN. It's a Tohono O'odham Nation, and we play one of their shows on Fridays. It's called Sound Clash, which is a reggae show that's produced by the manager down there, ST. ST's about maybe an inch taller than me, about the same build. He's a Rasta Tohono O'odham, and he's got his hair under his big hat. And if he takes his hat off, he has hair down to his booty. And
Wow.
he's a wonderful, wonderful guy. I've known him for years. But yeah, they've got their station there. And the Tohono O'odham, I was trying to remember what they used to be called, and I can't even think of that
The
common.
Pima was the word. Well, I guess they called it Pima cotton, right? So
Ah,
that's
I
where
didn't
that
know
came
that.
from. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well,
Yeah.
I guess they're doing better these days. I mean, I know they've been working on the health issues, but they
Well, they
were.
got their water back in a way, but now they got to
Mm,
protect it like all get out. And they're diversifying their economy. Of course, they got some successful casinos, so they're doing okay.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. What's that station call letters again, Peggy?
KOHN.
I never caught up to that while I was there. Thank you.
Probably stand for Oda,
Yeah.
what do they call them? Oh, Odom Nation or something like that.
Yeah, they
Toe
just built a
Nation.
new cultural center. They're trying to revive their language more so.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Oh, wow. There's so much wonderful stuff going on around Indian country.
amazing.
As I said, I mentioned earlier that you started one of the first native stations, CKON in Canada. It's Ontario.
Uh, well, I was a part of the effort for CKRZ, which is on my
Ah,
relay
sorry.
in Oswego, Ontario, Six Nations. But I founded Aboriginal Voices Radio. We launched the effort to get a national radio system for Native people at the turn of the century. I had a great success. I had 70% of the Canadian audience by radio at one
It's great.
point, but didn't get any support from the federal government, of course. And I had a different concept than I had written a license and presented to the CRTC. I presented for the Aboriginal People's Television Network, which is a national, like, tier one uh, public television, like CBC, like, CTV is a private operation, but APTN is right up there in tier one in Canada. And, I remember when we got that license going, there may have been 10 television producers in the whole country. Now there's hundreds.
That sounds 10 sounds really big to me. That is it's wonderful. Hey, I want to also let people know we have a driver in the background, Leanne Lindsay, who's one of our volunteers here. So she's making it easy so I don't have to do anything but talk to you. So thank you,
Right.
Leanne. And she's
Yeah.
actually in Santa Rosa, which is an hour away. So that's the
Mhm.
joy of the internet these days. Well, you're talking about those early days. There were So you were working on the Canadian part, getting that
Yeah.
going, TV and radio down here. Susan Brain and I were working on getting the lower 48 stations. And I think at that time we had a total of maybe, boy,
25, 30.
something like that. If that, at that, we got 68 stations. And of course, Native Voice won the national network.
Right.
And good stuff going on. India at National Native News, all kinds of things are going on. But I want to get back to you because I know most of our listeners are really interested to hear about what you have been doing. You have been, when did you make the transition into film yourself as an actor? That was pretty early on. Was it Jim
Yeah.
Jarmusch?
No, I started acting in 75 as a theater actor.
Oh, right,
Didn't
right.
really secure any film or TV work for the first 10 years much. I did some small pieces. Police Academy was my first major film. I think that was in early 80s, though. It might have been 82 or so. But then everything just changed to Powell Highway, 87, we shot it.
Mm-hmm.
That changed everything for me in a way as a film TV actor.
I think that film was a turning point for everything.
Yeah.
Things started really opening up again with having Native writers, producers, directors starting to really want to do their own thing and show Indians as who we are,
Kind of brought
instead of
Robbie
just-
Robertson home, which was interesting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You brought him home. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think Jonathan, the director, chased Robbie. We had some CCR in the soundtrack, as you might remember. But the mainstay songs for Powell Highway were Robbie Robertson, who, his fame through the band, but he's actually a relative through marriage to me.
Oh, cool.
The Mikes, old family. Robbie's mom married out in Toronto to a fairly notorious man. It was interesting. His dad was, involved in organized crime back in the day. There's even a book out about it
No.
by an entertainment editor at a Toronto Star. But it kind of brought him back to our community eventually. It took a few years, but he's come back and reestablished himself amongst our own and recorded some of our artists like Sadie Buck in some of his later recordings, so.
I love that CD he did. What was it, Red Boy and
Yeah.
I play a lot of it all the time, and yeah, Sadie Buck doing that Muskogee song, my tribe doing that song, and that she was out here several years ago, and the way our roads are here, she and her singers were together, and they were just freaking out about these roads. They'd go around these curves and they go. And they did this one curve, and the driver coming toward them did the same thing. But they're great people. It's great to see, and hear all the talent. We don't get to see it all the time. I don't get to watch, what's it called? FNX, First Nation TV down here.
It's starting to spread some. I've been watching it as it spreads around the country, slow but sure. But yes, it would be great to have a national television radio system for us still. I think it's necessary more so than ever. And, there's so much information we're not getting from the South when you look at the overall journalism picture. We never hear what's going on in Mexico like very much, or Guatemala or Nicaragua or El Salvador. Those are neighbors to us, and that news north to south isn't happening. And I feel an indigenous network, sophisticated enough, could start to bring that information forward so we can see just like the story we heard on, NPR, that, the impact of America across the world is not known to Americans, especially north to south.
Well, it's I'm glad you brought that up. National Native News has been working with a reporter I know, Maria Martin, and she lives in Guatemala, and she has been producing a few stories for National Native News. She used to be
Really?
on NPR, and she started Latino USA, a great radio producer. And so we're getting a little bit of information from there because I remember many years ago, I don't even know if you remember this. We used to work with a newspaper called Indigena in the 70s, and we published in Spanish and English, and we're the only Maria Helena Laroque founded that, and she's of course since passed, as well as her sister just recently. But we're the only ones writing about, in the 70s, you could still get Indian hunting licenses in Brazil,
Right.
I mean, and now the Yanomami are just about gone.
I
We're
know
writing
it's
about them. It's very, very sad. And the treatment of Indians is still very bad. So there's a little bit of that happening, but also many years ago at one of the film festivals that Elizabeth held, I
right.
think it was in
Weatherford, yeah.
DC. Yeah, I don't know if you were there or not, but I don't think you were, but
Yeah, they always worked hard at bringing that content forward.
yeah, she
That
did.
effort's been squelled some, though. I mean, it's still to some degree, but it's always been the politics of the nation. It really thwarts our efforts in a lot of ways.
Well, we keep on moving forward, and we do have our Native Voice One. You're doing great work. Uh, some of the representations are pretty funny. I love this line. Someone said Gary Farmer is a character actor with plenty of character.
Yeah, I've been riding on that one for a while.
Yeah, so how would you describe your roles or your
Oh,
acting?
I don't even think about it that much. I really try to humanize everything. Just be simple in approach, and just react, listen. I think the best actors are the best listeners. So I try to stay in that frame of mind, but I don't think a lot about shaping things like that. It just comes naturally, depending on the writing. I feel like a writer's actor.
Oh, that's an interesting term. I've never heard that, but I'm not an actor. Well, of course, we get to see you on Resident Alien, where you're
Yes.
very serious, Papa.
Yeah, I'm like Papa Bear for sure, for everyone, it seems. One Twitter just tweeted me that. I thought, oh, that's nice, so I retweeted that. But no, I really had two contrasting roles between Uncle Brownie on Res Dogs and Dan 12 Trees on Resident Alien for sure. It's nice to go back and forth, and they're always very close in production. So I literally go from one to the other. Last year, the transition was so tight within hours that I was a little confused and scared going in.
Wow. So both the studios are in the same vicinity?
No, not at all. One's
Not at
in
all. You have to
Vancouver, the other's in Tulsa, of course, and an hour south by Muskogee, where we shoot. Yeah.
I know. Back in my home territory back there, I just love it when I hear those Muskogee words. And
Yeah.
one day,
I always go hang by Will Sampson Drive there.
yeah, that's right. That's right. There's Berryhill Drive out there too.
Yeah, I've seen that actually. I've been on Berryhill Drive and thought of you actually.
Yeah, it's fun. I haven't been back home in a while, but
You should come back.
I
Come back
know.
home.
I know. Well, I stay in touch. You have big fans there. Former Chief George Tiger is a good friend of mine, and Edwin Marshall, whom you might have run across, but Edwin is on the side of films, and he's a language guy. He's an expert in our language and culture. He may be listening right now back in Okmulgee,
Yeah.
but he works with
Yeah.
what's that show? Yellowstone.
I may have met him at the NCAI conference this year, I think.
You might have, but he makes sure that, when they use pretend Indian language for pretend Indians, that they pronounce it correctly. They use a lot of, I guess, Muskogee and Yellowstone. And, so he
Right.
does that kind of work. So and he's a lot
Oh,
of fun.
nice.
He said, I have to share this with you though. He that one episode on Res Dogs, when your character is on the
Oh,
roof.
oh yeah.
Yeah, and he said, well, he said, I wish I had the nerve to do that kind of stuff. You know the scene I'm talking about.
Yes. Oh well, I learned that young. When I was the most inhibited young Indian boy, like most of our Indian boys
No.
are. They're very insecure about their bodies and all this stuff. And it just came to me as I remember the first time I had to take off my shirt on stage. I was mortified. And then it just went from there, where I began to realize that we're born naked, for one, and I think I'm still. People have written about this. I'm maybe the only Native American man ever to appear naked in film and theater.
Wow. I guess, that there's
So now, when there's a naked role, I get the call. Now, oh, he'll take his clothes off. Let's give him a call.
It's very, very funny. Hey, if you just joined me on Peggy's Place, we're talking with the wonderful actor, Gary Farmer. He's Cayuga. You see him on Resident Alien, on Res Dogs, other film work, and, a musician. Hey, I want to take a very short break, and we're going to listen for just a couple of, maybe a minute here, to something by Gary. Hang on, Gary. I want to hear a little bit of this, and we'll talk about it.
A long time ago, we had some dough, needed to unwind. Look for trouble, look for fun, now we're ready to blow your mind. Dance like a crow, like a witch doctor, no, down in New Orleans. Said, how about we go around, dance for the Mardi Gras queen. I'm a fool for love, fool for love, and it's you.
Thank you, Peggy.
All right, not quite as smooth as I wanted it to go, but yeah, thank you. That was fun. And that's so Gary not only acts, he sings and performs. Is this new CD out? Is it out on CD?
Yeah, it's
on YouTube.
It's everywhere in all the social platforms. You can get it on whatever you use, Spotify, Amazon Music, or whatever track you use. But that particular song, Peggy, I'll let you know, just got, I sent it to our showrunner for Resident Alien, and they brought the band back together, and they're in episode 4 on the third season, which will probably be out in the fall of 23. But so the whole band is in a particular show, and the storyline runs through the band's music and stuff. It was a great break, as it
That's
were.
great. What do you get to sing in it as the dad?
Yeah. I sing and perform in the show itself as Dan Twelvetrees, singing the Troublemakers tunes.
The Troublemakers, and that's who is Gary Farmer and the Troublemakers, and kind of his nickname, the Troublemaker. So you folks, you can check it out on YouTube, and we'll hear another song in a little bit, but nice to hear that. And if you watched Resident Alien last night, you saw Gary playing a little bit of the harmonica in a camping scene. This is the show that was on last night.
Yes.
Yeah. Is it only second season?
That was the second season, yeah. And we did actually 16 episodes that season. So we're only doing 8 this year. So it'll be out in the fall of 23, though.
What do you think about that? I mean, I think it's a fun show. People love it. But when you get presented with the idea of this alien coming to Utes, I guess it is.
Yeah. No, I love the idea, and that he's kind of, in a way, learning to be human through a bit of his contact with the Native community. I think it's a real special. It's a laugh out loud show. So
It is. Yeah.
I just find myself watching it and laughing out loud, and I just can't think of many shows that it catches my sense of humor much.
Now the guy who plays the resident alien, I'm not good with names, but he also is a kind of is a character actor, and isn't he a comedian?
Yeah, well, he's not a stand-up, but Alan Tudyk, I'm sure he could easily be. But we have a bevy of stand-up comedians in the show, though.
Oh, really?
Well, number three, Alice Wonderland, for one, is she plays the character Darcy in the show.
Mhm. Oh, she's funny.
Bar.
Yeah.
He's a real stand-up comedian and has lived in that world for years.
Oh my goodness, that's a tough world. As
Yeah.
you know, our dear friend Charlie was such a Charlie Hill. We
Yes,
miss him
indeed.
so much. But that world of stand-up comedy. But I just want to shout out to Charlie now, because you knew him well. And he was more than, quote, just an Indian comedian. He was an amazing intellectual. And
Yeah.
that's what brought his comedy, that made it so strong.
Yeah, he grew up with the greats. I'll never forget Charlie showing me a list of comics that were at the Comedy Store in LA and Sunset there, and he was amongst David Letterman, you name it, Jay, the guy, all of them, all the greats were there, and all of them made it. Charlie did to a degree, but never like all the ones that he worked with. But he was relentless, and even his last, I saw a broadcast or a video, a phone capture of his last performance for the UN, I think, events at the United Nations in New York City, and he was still kicking it. He didn't relent ever in his whole career.
No, he for those of you who are just tuning in to Peggy's Place, lucky to have a wonderful chat with Gary Farmer, the actor, and we were just reminiscing for a moment about a wonderful comedian and actor who sadly passed away too soon, Charlie Hill. He also was Six Nations, wasn't he?
United from
United, 'cause you're Six Nations, I think KGUA is.
Yeah, KGUA from Ontario, the ones up there. But there's KGUA also in Oklahoma, which is the Fancy Dance film that's coming around now, which is a bit of a controversial issue because Heather Ray produced it, and now she's been chased
Outed?
down. Well, we used to, I remember in my day, we would call when Johnny Depp told me that he had Cherokee blood, and I accepted that, because James Garner never said anything about his Indian blood, and so there was that whole period where we had to, as Native people, assume a non-Native identity to be successful, or at least we thought we did. And so now, whenever someone said they were Cherokee, I thought, oh, great, a friend, a relative, yes, right on, come on in, because not many identified. And now it's totally opposite, where we're saying, oh, even though she may have grown up with believing from her family that she had Cherokee blood, and then it all just crumbles down. But we forget about the human element,
Well, I agree with you. I mean, Heather Ray she's more of is she an actor or director? She's
exclusively a producer, really. She makes stuff happen, and she's never it's not like a university professor where she's lived off the avails of being, she's took the bull by the horn for us. She represented us when I had too much edge to represent us. We needed someone like Heather Ray to get us where we are today.
So what Gary and I are talking about, an article just came out, I think it was yesterday or the day before, a scathing article of, accusing Heather Ray of not actually being an Indian. And we see these from time to time. Of course,
New
Session
York Post.
just passed. Hmm?
It was the New York Post.
Yeah. Oh, and the Post. Oof. Well, and, it's
Exactly.
some of it, it's a hard line. Sometimes it's hard to follow lineage, but I think what Gary is saying is that she's done a lot of really good work for Native people. But the Cherokee thing, I mean, is always a tough one, because there's like apparently about 100 million Cherokees, I guess. I don't know, a whole bunch of them. But, then there are, so anyway, that's one of the things that happens. And I don't think it's just within Indian world. I'm sure there are other races and nationalities that have people that they don't feel really represent or have been representing and keeping other people out. I don't know. I don't really want to get into it, but when I read the article, and of course they showed her with Session, who just passed away. So,
and then she turned out, her sister said she wasn't either, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I never thought she was, but she was a nice lady.
No.
I've never met Heather. But but then let's go to the other real Indians like Graham Greene.
Right.
All right. Another Canadian. Have you ever worked
Well,
with
he's my cousin, actually. Did you know we grew up?
guys? No.
His dad is my grandmother's first cousin, and they lived across the road from my Bill and Elsie farmer, and I was the only grandchild for like 8 years. So I used to get bequeathed all these Christmas gifts, and Graham had like 6 or 7 children in his family. So he used to come over and play with all the toys I would get as a kid, And we both were migrant workers because our families worked states, ironwork, wherever that took us. So everybody was on the move back in the 50s, 60s. And so Graham and I knew each other for our whole, and then we lived together as young actors, and we've been in theater plays, some really successful plays in, especially Thompson Highway's work. Dry Lips How to Move to Kapuskasing, and also Res Sisters was very popular. But yeah, we've had a career together. And in fact, we were doing a hit play in Toronto when he got nominated for Academy Award for Dances with Wolves. And we both got nominated for the theater play we're in for acting. So we still hang. In fact, I had lunch with Graham, and I don't know, I guess I can say this stuff, but and Graham says to me, Gary, I'd really like to be on Res Docs. So when I got down to Tulsa, I see Sterling, I say, Graham wants to play, and so it takes a year, right? So apparently he's in this season. So
Great. Oh,
yeah,
that's
he comes
great.
back as, of course, one of contemporaries of Wesley's and I. So it's really interesting.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I love that you know each other, and he is such an amazing actor.
Yeah, we're
so-
family.
yeah, both of
Two
you. So that'll
distinct
be fun.
characters too, two totally different.
Oh,
We've both had very unique careers.
absolutely. Well, he's a lot more serious a lot of times, and
He's a funny
Gary,
guy. He's a funny guy.
is he? Good to know.
Oh,
Wow. So you played with a lot of people. What other Native actors have you gotten to play with?
all of them, except for, even the young ones, I just watched that episode of Accused, directed by Tasba, which of course is our friend's daughter,
Valerie's daughter.
And then Kiowa Gordon's in it, a young actor from Navajo guy. I can't think of his name right now, but I did an acting class with him at IAI years ago, and he's Robert. He's also in another top TV show. I can't think of his last name right now. And then Robert Mesa, and then also a Navajo actor. Oh my God, their names don't come as easy as they used to. But the trio of them had a real dramatic, which Tasba wrote, or and then directed an episode of this series called Accused. And I was really impressed by all their performances, especially Robert Mesa. I thought, wow, he had the the real transitional role that really drove the narrative. And I was really proud of him. You know,
Oh, I'll have
I
to
was
check
almost
that
going
out.
to reach out to say congratulations on your performance. You know,
Is that a series? Double?
yeah, it's a series, but it's a different, goes to a different community every episode, and it's just one central character they focus. And you know, in this case, it was you know, some activists taking over, trying to shut down a uranium processing plant.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look that up. I'll look that up. Well, you mentioned Tazbot Chavez, who
Yes.
started out in a whole different world and has
Writing.
recently just, I mean,
television,
very quickly, I think,
very quickly.
made
She
a,
worked for our show on the first season.
yeah,
Resident Alien.
yeah. Oh, wow. And she is the daughter of a well-known, I'm going to be name dropping here, you know, as Charlie would say, boom, name dropping Valerie Talon, a great editor and writer down in Arizona. So her daughter, Tasba, has just jumped in with everything she's got into the film industry. So
Yeah.
we're seeing this. Is it, you know, I mean, it just seems like, I don't want to use the word renaissance, but it's just great to see all of this happening. Did
Well, it
you,
was inevitable. It was inevitable. You know, we had to, we're not disappearing, and we've got a lot to say. There's a lot of us that still hold true the knowledge from the prior to the written word,
Mhm.
the oral cultures of our land, and that knowledge hasn't been respected, and we'll continue to work at it till it is.
Well said. Well said. I think that, and we're well suited to be in acting and performance because that was a large part of our oral history, wasn't it? Telling stories, the dancing, all
Yeah,
that went
exactly.
with it. You know, it's a natural. So it's great.
So that's why I had so much belief in radio, because it's only the sound of our voice that they see. We don't have the image to manipulate their and basically brainwash them. The radio is still the most honest medium, you know.
But yeah, and by the way, we're live on YouTube as well.
We can't avoid the visual medium now.
No, it's important and it's fun, you know, we could do something like this Zoom. You're in Santa Fe, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, you
Papa.
get to live there. Lucky you. You've been there a long
Yeah.
time, huh?
Well, 87 for Powell Highway, right? And
Mhm.
I just fell in love and never really left, although I came and left and came back. But I've settled here for at least 20 years now.
Oh, that's great. There are a lot of great I mean, there's a lot of Indians around the area, but there's some great people who live there. I know Harry Fonseca used to live there.
Mhm.
And I mean, I shouldn't start naming because you know, leave everybody out. But it's a great place, and you're part of an upcoming in the fall film festival there, correct?
Yeah, we're in our 15th year, the Santa Fe Independent Film Fest, or excuse me, International. We changed the name to International mid-season, mainly because the popular festival in Colorado, which is slipping my name, moved away from international film a bit, going more into American. And we picked up a lot from, especially I'm working for mostly indigenous makers and indigenous subject matter for our fest, but working more toward the South, like my interest in terms
Mhm.
of.
Are you
sense of-
finding more films from Central and South America?
Yeah, we're having some success with that. You know, of course, we're bilingual here, so it's also trying to work more on Spanish language film
Mhm.
and Portuguese. It'd be nice to continue to diversify our audiences here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's a wonderful state for diversity, so
Mhm.
that's why I'm so comfortable here. And the
Absolutely.
Pueblos take care of us, like, you know, people wonder why they get all the bad weather. You know, it's because they chased all the people out, right? And these folks haven't been moved, and so I feel very safe here. You know, I don't feel, you know, necessarily. I feel safe at home in our little 25,000 square acres, but I feel real safe here in New Mexico.
Mhm. I lived there once many years ago. I love going there. And sadly, one of those pueblos, which one is it, near Santa Fe, has run out of water because of all this.
Yeah, there's a lot of water issues always here, but I haven't heard that news of late. I did hear a whim of it yesterday, but I haven't chased that down yet.
Yeah.
We've
Well,
had our share of water this year, though, so I can imagine.
good. Well, we'd gladly trade you some. We're like overwhelmed with our water here.
Well, I always thought with the weather change, we'd become the rainforest, but apparently maybe you are more so.
It's too soon to tell. You never know
Yeah,
what's
we
going to
don't know
happen.
where it's
I
going to
like
land.
that. I like that image of you guys being a rainforest all of a sudden.
Yeah, well,
you
we
know,
were at the bottom of the ocean at one point, so
we met at one of Elizabeth's festivals once. We being a bunch of North American Indians met some Indians from Central and South America, and we were so thrilled to meet them because we think of them as the real Indians, and they came to us and they were like, no, you guys are the real Indians.
yeah.
It was, it's such a dichotomy because the world, and they don't have sovereignty, obviously, like we do, and that's made all the difference for, I think, our tribes here, where in Central and South America, they just don't have that kind of power.
No, I made a film and shot in Mexico for a film called The Gift, which was Where Did Corn Come From? Was the effort of the film. And of course, it came from the Mayan. They developed it from grass, and it changed the politics of the world, right? And the economy. Because you plant one seed, you get possibly 200. You plant at the time, they only had oats and barley. You plant one, you get 6 or 8 seeds. So it really revolutionized the world, and it's classically an Indian crop. It's an amazing story.
Yeah, thank you for that. I always wonder, I mean, how did it happen? It's this fancy term they call nixtamalization, but when the volcano ash fell in with the corn that was boiling, and that's what made it even healthier. I mean,
Yeah, it releases the amino acid, and it becomes a protein.
Mhm. I was up in Seneca a few years ago, and one of the guys up there, I told him how much we liked how we grew white flint corn down in Oklahoma. So he brought me a 3-pound bag of Seneca white corn, and I brought that
Right.
and cooked it up. And I couldn't remember how much ashes to put in, but I had one of my neighbors clean out their fireplace and burn some clean wood, and I got some ash and made it. 3 pounds of corn turned into,
Yeah.
I don't know how many gallons of corn hominy. It was really good. But,
Yes.
it was fun, like, doing that again. And I guess that's what, and what did they do? Have families sitting around, getting that kernel of corn out of the middle of it once you cook it? Anyway, all of these things that happened in our communities that it took all of us. To make something happen. That was the lesson that Susan and I learned from that little a couple of pounds of
Mostly
corn.
the women. It was the harvest and the food processing was mostly women.
Mm-hmm. So tell us, maybe with we had a few minutes left. Why don't you tell some people about your tribe? What's their history?
Well, the Six Nations were split in two during the American Revolution. By the War of 1812, we were fighting against each other. Half of us went and sided with the British. We got this tract of land for doing that, 6 miles each side of the river, the river is probably about 150 miles. So we didn't retain much of that land. Of course, that's what they say, the fires were split. So there's 2 fires, one in Onondaga with Oran Lions and one in Six Nations with our traditional Confederacy. And of course, all those communities in Ontario, but there's probably 17, 18 communities throughout, Wisconsin, New York State, Ontario, Quebec, Oklahoma. And if you look at the history, I had to do a Columbus Day speech at Cincinnati. So I did some research. There's a mound 13,000 years old of a lot of the people that would have joined the Confederacy hadn't it been for the American Revolution, the Tutelos, the Wyandots, the Delaware, Tecumseh's people. I always dream what it would have been like hadn't that if they would have accepted us on arrival, where we would have been as a world.
Mhm.
That whole change and masculine effort coming over, just trying to find some freedom and not realizing that we had so many sophisticated structures, trade routes, food. It was a special. I always dream of that prior to contact. The sophistication, and when you look at our history and all the mounds that are still in America yet to be discovered or uncovered or treated like it was anything close to Greece or Greek, and everything
Mhm.
came from there. I just have a tremendous respect for that we're still able to live, breathe, and work our language as best we can to maintain our cultural identity and the strength of that knowledge of, that we can live in peace. Peace was widespread before contact. We can find it again.
Wow. I love that vision, and maybe that'll be a film someday, but it's so true. We the empires that were in Central and South America, but what was going on here in what's known as North America and Canada, we had, as you're saying, a lot of trade, and Tecumseh almost won. Tecumseh almost won that war, but sadly, his brother ended that vision. And Tecumseh was a great warrior, and I think he was part Creek. That for the people who don't know, when America was leaving what was then America, 13 colonies, and they started to move westward, Tecumseh organized a lot of the tribes to fight against that westward expansion, and he almost stopped them. What a difference that might have made. And like you say, of the respect is a well-known story of and you can correct me, because I think they were French. Some French came to the Six Nations somewhere in Canada, and the clan mothers came out to greet them. You know this story? And the clan mothers came out to greet them, and the men wouldn't talk to them. And the clan mothers kept coming out for several days, and the whoever they were, French, wouldn't talk to them. And the women said, well, I guess they want to talk to the men. And that was the beginning of that usurpation of power of the
That
women.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of the many stories that we've heard. But yeah, all of those, you're talking about the mounds. We have some, I think, in Georgia, Ohio.
Well, the Maya were in Georgia. That's how I couldn't figure how corn got to us so fast. But they were just in Georgia.
Okay, I'm going to do this silly thing. Look at my profile. Is
Yeah.
that Mayan? I think do you know Judy Lowry, the great Nisanan artist? She's
Charlie
in Northern
Lowry these
California.
days, but
Well,
yeah.
anyway, I did that one day. I said, okay, I'm positive we're part Mayan, and I showed her my profile, and she says, well, I'm going to paint you as a Mayan one of these days. But yeah, I mean, all of that, you certainly see it in Arizona, in some of those, gosh, where were we? Just, oh gosh, I'm gonna forget the names. I can't remember either. Tazagut, was that the name of it in Arizona? But all of these dwellings there, and you can see all of that influence. So there's so many stories, Gary, so
Oh,
many
yes.
stories, and
We
hopefully,
have a life of stories to tell yet, Peggy.
yeah.
We're leaving a good path for our young.
That's what it's coming to at this point, isn't it? Well, I mean, you especially have done that, and yet you're still having fun doing all of this, right?
Oh yeah, I love the work still.
Yeah. What's coming next? It seems like you're always busy.
Well, I'm just going to do Res Dogs, and I'm touring my music a lot. I'm touring Ontario in July, and we're doing a music video of one of the songs I sent you.
Mhm. Cool.
And we're staying up a lot. We may be coming to Northern California. I do a California tour often with music during Indian Days, which is always the last weeks of September. And we've got some dates booked in October. So I'm going to play music this year a bit and do some more writing and some more producing, make a new album.
Wow, we're gonna have to find a way to get you out here and maybe show a film or something.
That'd
That
be
would be
excellent.
fun.
I'd be
We
happy
would
to do
love
that.
to do that.
Yeah.
And maybe we can get Buffy out here too.
Well, Buffy may have been stopped performing. She may do solo now, but she's slowing down.
Amazing, 81 or something, but she's still going so strong.
Oh,
Yeah. And she's, she's done so much for everybody, but I would love to have you out here. We'll have to figure out how to do that. We have a Mendocino Film Festival, I think, in October. So that's not too far. Beautiful place to be. Love to see you and see you perform and just, see the Pomo. Here it's Pomos. And 3 rancherias.
Yeah, there's lots of rancherias. Yeah.
40 acres. That's what we got out here in California. It just is, I'm trying to think of a nice, a not bad word, but they were the last ones, and they've gotten it so bad because by the time the United States arrived here, it was just plain extermination.
Yeah. Well, it never was anything else, but.
Yeah, but by then they were like, here, I know, it's true, that's all it was, but it didn't work. We're still here.
Yeah.
Still
reminding them. Yeah.
Huh?
Still reminding them.
Well, let's hear another little bit of piece of music. Would you like to hear a little bit of Cadillacs Don't Care?
Yeah. We wrote that up in Northern California, actually, on tour.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's hear a little bit of this. And you're listening to Peggy's Place, Gary Farmer, the actor. And now you're going to hear Gary Farmer, the musician.
Baby, it don't matter where you've been. We got each other. That's all we need to believe in. Love and compassion. Shift the fate, sway, roll with the punches. Gotta get away. Can't stop that snow from coming. Blues falling down like hell. Cadillacs don't care. Cadillacs don't care. There never was a death twisted up and shot. 420 cents up. Cadillacs don't care. Disillusioned and bruised, feeling pretty bad. We ended up where Indians run wild, dancing with the sun. We sheltered for the night. She made it feel alright. Resting on our Lord, we feasted for the fire. Can't stop that storm from coming. Blues falling down like hell. Cadillacs don't care. Cadillacs don't care. There never was a doubt. Twisted up and shot.
Well, not as smooth as I wanted again, but Gary, that's a wonderful song.
Yeah, we love that song. We're going to make a music video out of it actually this fall, or this July, actually. Shoot it at home on the res.
Oh,
Yeah.
in Cayuga?
No. Well, no. Our res is the only place where all the Iroquois people are. The Oneida, Seneca, Tuscarora, Onondaga, Mohawk, Cayuga, and lots of Delawares are there. And Anishinaabe too, Ojibwe. We sold them some land when they got chased out of Toronto. Yeah. So all the tribes are there. There's about 25,000 people in that immediate res. The 2 reses are adjacent to each other.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. So what does Cadillacs don't care mean?
Well, it's kind of a miracle in imperialism, I guess, in a way, can't seem to get their, thinking about the way things were and how simple life can be, and we don't need all the ambition, so that life can last longer for our generations to come. Always looking 7 generations ahead,
Mm-hmm.
So, how do we modify that for us to sustain and survive, in a world that's unlike the one we thought we were?
It's a wonderful song, and thinking about it like that, I mean, like you said, people of our generation have paved a way for the next generations. What do you think? And this is, asking a big question. No, where do you see Indians, and I'll keep it simple, say in 10 years?
Well, I don't know if we can manage. To me, if we could get the networks going, both television and radio, so that we can begin to help folks understand how you can live in this planet forever and transition from some of the detrimental technologies that overtook 80 years ago when they suppressed hemp, for instance.
Mhm.
Hemp, I mean, we can make batteries. We don't even need lithium, which they're digging South America up for,
Yep.
invading Indian territories for lithium, when we can use hemp to make batteries to service everything we need. And like I say, the cotton industry, the liquor industry, the chemical industry, when are they going to start paying for the damage that they did to us? I grew up in Niagara Falls, with the industrial nation was just blooming with Dow Chemical, that they're the culprits for so much pollution and cancer. Where do you think all that came from? And life was so much simpler and so much easier to sustain when we didn't put profit first, and these detrimental industries that continue. And look at the harm that liquor's done to our society. I just have a hard time accepting 80 years ago,
Uh-huh.
and the whole reefer madness campaign that's still alive today. And we can build houses from it. We don't need all these chemical products that are destroying the earth and destroying the water. Plastic, we could replace plastic with the hemp industry.
Remember that movie with, when it first came out, the title just left me, but Dustin Hoffman was just a young man, and he's at some party, and this man says to him, "I've got one word for you: plastics." And that film was the beginning of the plastic industry, and it set up everyone to start accepting plastic. But you're right about the hemp. You and Winona LaDuke, is doing a great job at showing what hemp can do. Here in parts of Northern California, we talk about hemp a lot, and it's right. It's right. We could change so much if there was not all of this sickness of arrogance and just having to have it all right now at whatever cost. And that's that's a culture. That's a whole cultural way of thinking, and
It's going to be hard to turn around. Yeah,
it is. I have to say this, even though I meant to say this before we started, but because of that horrible killings in Nashville yesterday, the number one cause of death for children and youth is guns in this country. That's a horrible thing to.
I was going to send you my song "Need a Gun," which is another song. I'll send it to you after the program. Maybe you can play it on the air sometime. But it is questioning that, of course, and when we don't, we never needed those to sustain. But it's an interesting song, one I feel strongly about as well.
Great. Well, send it to me. I didn't mean to end the show on a downer note, but I can't help but, you're talking about the joy of life and the joy of living simpler and what we can all do to make that happen again, but we all have to continue talking about it. Gary, I'm out of time. I'm out
Excellent.
of time.
My girlfriend's starving to death.
Oh, well, we don't want that to happen. You're going to cook? You're going to take her out somewhere in Santa
So we're
Fe?
going out this morning.
All right. That sounds great. Well,
Great
hopefully I'll
breakfast.
see you in a few months again in person. And I thank you so much for spending your time with us. It
No,
was
Peggy,
great.
It's a pleasure. Anytime.
All right. Great to see you. Well, you guys go out and have some of that great blue corn something or other out there.
Green chili. Yeah.
Oh my God. All right. We're going to let you go. And we're going to continue on with Native programming as we go to Native America Calling.